The modern world is shaped not only by wars or armies, but by quiet economic decisions that ripple across the globe. Sometimes a tax policy or strategic move designed to protect one nation can reshape alliances and shift the balance of power. But what happens when economic policy becomes a weapon powerful enough to influence relations between global powers like France and China? In this video, we explore how Trump's tax strategy created global ripple effects and reshaped modern geopolitics. The story begins with a powerful idea that has defined Donald Trump's economic worldview for years. To Trump, economic strength is not just about prosperity, it is about national security and power in a competitive world. His approach reflects economic nationalism, the belief that a nation must protect its industries, reduce reliance on foreign production, and use economic policy as leverage in global competition. This idea is not new, but in today's globalized world, its impact can be enormous. When Trump introduced aggressive tax incentives designed to bring manufacturing back to the United States, the intention was clear. Companies producing overseas would face pressure, while domestic investment would receive advantages and strengthen American industry. Economic power would concentrate at home. But here is the first geopolitical reality. When the world's largest economy changes its economic rules, every other major economy must react. France quickly recognized the implications. France is one of the central strategic actors in global politics. As a nuclear power, a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, and a leading voice within the European Union, it plays a critical role in shaping Europe's economic and strategic direction. For decades, French leadership has promoted European strategic autonomy, the belief that Europe must be able to act independently from the United States. Trump's tax policies, however, introduced a serious challenge to this vision. As American tax incentives encouraged multinational corporations to move production into the United States, European economies faced new pressure. Capital flows began shifting, and investment decisions increasingly favored the American market. This created concerns in Paris that Europe's industrial competitiveness could weaken, not because of military conflict, but because of economic gravity. And here lies an important geopolitical truth. Power does not always follow armies. Power follows investment. President Emmanuel Macron and French policymakers began viewing these economic shifts not merely as financial developments, but as strategic pressure. If Europe lost industrial capacity, it could lose strategic independence. If investment moved westward, Europe's ability to influence global affairs could diminish. Economic policy had become a form of geopolitical leverage. But the story does not stop with France or the United States, because when tension appears between major Western allies, another global power is always watching: China. China carefully observes divisions within the international system, as friction between Europe and the United States creates opportunities for expansion. As American economic policies pressured European industries, China increased engagement with European markets, expanding trade partnerships and promoting cooperation and stability. For France, this created a strategic dilemma. The United States remained a key security partner and NATO ally, while China represented a major economic market. Navigating between these two giants required careful balancing. France did not choose one side, but pursued strategic equilibrium. It maintained cooperation with the United States while strengthening economic dialogue with China and supporting European industrial independence. This balancing act reflects the complexity of modern geopolitics, where alliances depend on strategic necessity. This leads us to another key transformation in global politics: the rise of economic warfare. In previous centuries, power was projected primarily through military force. Today, economic tools often achieve similar outcomes with far less visible conflict. Tariffs, sanctions, trade restrictions, and tax policies now function as instruments of strategic influence. Trump's approach accelerated this transformation by demonstrating how domestic economic policy could reshape global supply chains. Global companies suddenly faced difficult decisions. Should they follow American incentives and relocate production? Should they maintain operations in Europe? Should they expand into Asian markets? Each decision carried geopolitical consequences. Supply chains became strategic choices rather than purely economic calculations. And supply chains themselves became battlegrounds. The early 21st century revealed that control over production networks determines national resilience. Nations that control semiconductor manufacturing, energy infrastructure, rare earth materials, and advanced technology gain strategic advantages. Trump's policies aimed to reduce dependence on foreign production by reshoring critical industries. Europe responded by strengthening its own industrial policies. China accelerated its pursuit of technological self-sufficiency. What emerged was a global competition for industrial independence, a quiet but intense economic arms race. But perhaps the most significant battlefield lies in technology. Artificial intelligence, digital infrastructure, and semiconductor production now define future power. American restrictions on technology transfers, combined with economic incentives for domestic production, forced European nations to reconsider their technological strategies. France and the European Union began investing heavily in digital sovereignty initiatives, artificial intelligence development, and independent cloud infrastructure. The goal was clear: reduce dependence on external technological powers. The geopolitical hook here is profound. The future balance of power may depend less on territory and more on data, algorithms, and computing capacity. As these pressures intensified, leadership decisions became increasingly important. Trump's strategy relied on confrontation and leverage. Macron emphasized balance and strategic independence. Chinese leadership pursued long-term structural positioning through investment and global partnerships. Each leader operated under different domestic constraints, political pressures, and national priorities. Geopolitics is often portrayed as a rational game of strategy, but in reality it is shaped by uncertainty, domestic politics, and human decision-making. Leaders respond to economic pressure, public opinion, and strategic risk simultaneously. The result is a complex global system where economic policy, diplomacy, and security become deeply interconnected. Another crucial dimension of this transformation involves military power. Economic strength directly supports military capability. Industrial production determines defense capacity. Technological innovation shapes modern warfare. Financial stability enables long-term strategic planning. By reshaping global economic flows, Trump's policies indirectly influenced future military balance. If Europe strengthens economic autonomy, it may develop stronger independent defense capabilities. If China expands its economic influence, its strategic reach grows. Economic policy, therefore, shapes the future of global security. From a European perspective, these developments signal a broader shift in the international system. The post-Cold War era was defined by overwhelming American dominance. Today, the world is gradually moving towards multipolarity, where multiple centers of power compete and cooperate simultaneously. The United States remains a dominant force, but China, Europe, and emerging powers increasingly shape global dynamics. France has positioned itself at the center of this transformation by advocating a Europe capable of acting independently within a competitive global environment. American economic pressure accelerated Europe's recognition of this need. Strategic autonomy, once an abstract idea, became a practical objective. Looking ahead from early 2026, several trends appear increasingly clear. Economic tools will continue replacing traditional conflict, and trade relationships will shape alliances. Technology control will determine strategic influence, while supply chains will define geopolitical stability. Future confrontations may begin not with military escalation, but with economic decisions. And this brings us back to the central idea of this story, the ripple effect. A tax policy introduced in one country can alter global investment patterns. Investment shifts reshape economic relationships, which in turn influence alliances and redefine geopolitical balance. This chain reaction illustrates how